What's up, girlfriend?
All right, well, that's just gonna be the intro. Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and welcome back to the recast. I am joined by MonstersReview.
What's up?
And this week we are once again joined by Shadowstreak.
Hey, howdy, hey.
This week we kept it a mystery, mostly because we didn't know what we were doing, but we are going to be covering an old familiar topic, the Powerpuff Girls and the Powerpuff Girls. We haven't done this in a while, and, you know, we wanted this to be a big thing, so I was like, Shadow, what episodes of the Powerpuff Girls and 2016 Powerpuff Girls can we compare? And what did you tell me, Shadow?
I said, we gotta do the one everyone's been waiting for. Nano of the North and Largo.
Oh,
What you didn't tell us was the fact that Largo was an Allegro episode.
I didn't. No, I did not.
You didn't? And the description on Wikipedia did not say that.
yeah.
So all these years that we've been talking about in the trivia, we've been referencing Largo and Nano of the North. I never knew that it was going to be another twerkalicious cringe fest with everyone's favorite panda. Oh boy. But more on that later. We've got a little bit of a shorter show for you this week. We do have something for the rotating segment, but it's not going to be anything big. It's honestly just going to be a little fireside chat, little announcement that me and Monsters have to talk to you guys about. But then, even before that, Shadow, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Thank you for asking. Had a pretty exciting past couple of weeks in regards to YouTube. I actually put out a video on the original Powerpuff Girls, which I haven't done in over a year, so that's pretty cool.
Wow.
By the time this gets uploaded, I'll have a Rick and Morty video out. So
I don't believe you.
You don't believe me? Well, I've only been putting it off for
Rick and Morty video.
I've only put it off for like 3 weeks.
Is it about why season 3 is so bad?
No, it's not. Nintendo already beat me to that, so I had to talk about season 1 instead. But yeah,
why season 1 is so good?
Yeah, and I have a few other more interesting videos coming out in the next couple of weeks. So December's looking like a great month for me. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Did you finish any playthroughs on any Pokemon series?
Oh, why? As a matter of fact, I did. Pi and I finished our second Pokemon run on the Bad Stat Challenge, which I have to say was very exciting and very fun. So I highly recommend you check that out. And
it was something. We played through randomized version of Pokemon Sapphire with just awful, weird, gimmicky Pokemon with terrible stats.
Yep. Though a few actually ended up shining through as MVPs, but I won't say which ones. That you gotta watch to understand.
Horrifying upset right at the very beginning. You ever get stuck playing Pokemon when you don't have a damaging move? But yeah, no, that's out, and the next challenge will be coming in the next few weeks. So look forward to that. That's over on Pieguy Plays. Link in the description. Monsters, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, you know, had some time to catch up with family and friends and stuff my stomach during the Thanksgiving break. I hope all of you had great Thanksgivings as well. And I also caved and got Disney Plus.
Ah, there we go.
Hey.
And I can say that as of this recording, I am caught up with The Mandalorian. It is a fantastic series.
Okay. It's on my watch
That's
list.
all I've watched on Disney Plus. But so far, I've had no issues. Like you, I had it on WebOS for my LG TV.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. But yeah, Disney Plus is pretty cool. I'm not sure if I'm going to cancel my subscription once The Mandalorian stops premiering, because that's really all I've seen and care to see so far. But other than that, I've been doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, I've been doing pretty good as well. Had a pretty low-key Thanksgiving. Yeah, I've been watching stuff on Disney Plus as well. I guess I'll do like a mini what we've been watching. I marathoned all of Recess in the past few days. Yep. Actually, I have about 30 minutes left on the movie. Recess, school's out. But yeah, no, I watched the whole series, and it's good. Like it holds up pretty well. It's kind of it's like a Hey Arnold, Kids Next Door type thing, where it's like kids take things very, very seriously and are running these operations. But yeah, it's got very memorable characters, a pretty like iconic soundtrack, I would say. And yeah, overall, it was just very fun. It was something I watched a lot, kind of like randomly on one Saturday morning on ABC. It's not something that I ever had the chance to kind of go and watch the whole series. And unfortunately, I didn't get to watch it in order because Disney Plus does not have it in order. And I didn't feel like hopping around constantly. It's not the kind of show that you really need to see in order, but it would have been nicer to see it in order, I guess. One of the weird things is that, actually, like the Powerpuff Girls, Recess was a show that kind of flip-flopped between the hand-painted cells and digital animation. For some reason. I think because Recess was done by a few different animation houses, and one of them really liked digital animation, and that one happened to be the worst at animating it. So basically every time I saw the cleaner colors, I was like, well, this is gonna look worse. And it did. But no, overall, the series is really good. I think my favorite episode might be the economics of Recess, which is basically like TJ's out from school for a few days, and in the time he's gone, these stickers have become the economy on the playground, and you can't do anything without paying stickers. So basically, it's like this mini economics thing, and TJ rises up by doing a bunch of like low-level jobs and saves stickers and creates pyramid schemes and becomes the Wolf of Wall Street on the playground, even though that movie hadn't come out yet.
You know what's funny? I keep getting a YouTube video in my recommended called like why Disney has a monopoly as explained by Disney's Recess. Does that have to do with that? I haven't watched the video.
Yep, and that's the episode.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But yeah, there's all sorts of episodes like that kind of take on ideas. There's one that deals with like addiction and gaming, where everyone gets addicted to this Jimbo game and no one plays anything else. I don't know. There's a lot of really cool concepts in there. It's not a perfect show. And it is kind of similar to a lot of other stuff. Like the one of the creators was one of the head people on Rugrats. So like a lot of the sounds are very similar to Rugrats, and a lot of the kind of like kids on an operation with like army march music going on, it's very similar to Rugrats. But no, it definitely stands out in its own way. So that's the big thing I've been watching, and I think next I'm gonna move on to Kim Possible. I think that's yeah. But yeah, I guess to update on Disney Plus, since I complained 2 weeks ago on the last podcast, they have added a continue watching feature, at least on the WebOS, that on the TV app, where now if you've been watching something, it shows up on the front page and it allows you to continue right from where you left off. So very glad that happened pretty fast, within a month of it being out, because that was really annoying to have to go into, to have to remember the show you were watching, search for it, or go to your watch list or wherever you had it, then remember what episode you were on, and then remember if you were in the middle of it or not. And especially for something like Recess, which is 2 11-minute episodes that are like bunched together in one thing. If you saw one of those but not the second half, you'd have to go in and then just fast forward to it. It was annoying. I'm glad they fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
As they should. Monsters, do you have any corrections and or observations?
Yeah. So first, pointing this out from Spongy444, they corrected one of our corrections from last week. So in the 60-second recast, I think this might have been trivia or something, but we talked about National Treasure being on Disney Plus, and I believe we said in the 60-second that only the second one was on Disney Plus.
Yes. And then I corrected
in the 63rd.
Yeah, I corrected it by saying that the first one is on Disney Plus because I saw it, right? I saw I was searching for National Treasure and it came up in the search engine, right?
Right.
But for some reason, this is kind of scummy in my opinion, Disney has a lot of things, especially movies, that are not yet on the service but are coming to the service next year. And they already have pages for them, so you might see it if you're searching for like a movie or something, you see it on there and you say, oh great, National Treasure 1's out, like I'll have to remember to watch that later, and then you'll come back to it and you'll click on the page and the page will just say available January 22nd, and it's like, I mean, it's nice to know what's coming up on the service, but it's just kind of an artificial, kind of scummy way to make it look like they have more content than they do.
Yeah, I saw that for The Last Jedi, because that's not on there yet, but they're just like coming soon.
They should have a coming soon on the poster itself, like on the image.
Yeah.
Like I think,
or better yet, don't even list it with the rest of the results. Just have like a separate like tab or something somewhere where it's like, this will be coming soon, but don't have it show up in the search results if you're searching for it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I get it. I get what they're, well,
it's assuring to know that it's at least coming to the service.
Right. They're not just going to be satisfied with National Treasure 2 Book of Secrets.
Yeah.
Okay, what else we got?
Story Arc pointed out that, as we just mentioned, Disney has fixed some of the issues that were troubling at launch. They were wondering how we feel about Disney Plus slowly rolling out these features. I can say for myself personally, it's to be expected. I mean, I do wish that they were a little bit more prepared, especially for something of this scale, but...
Yeah, I mean, a part of me is like, you know, they took pre-orders for this thing. This is Disney we're talking about. This isn't some startup trying to start a streaming service.
Yeah.
You know, they should not be perfect, but they should at least be up to mostly where, like, Netflix is, right? Or even Hulu, since Disney owns Hulu. Like, they can just copy paste, right?
Yeah.
So a part of me is like, well, they really should have had it day one. But another part of me is like, you know, even though they are Disney, there is still a learning curve with a lot of this stuff. And as long as the updates happen in a timely manner, it's not the end of the world. I mean, as long as the stuff does get fixed. One thing I do want to point out, I don't know if this is true, but I did see someone was surprised at me mentioning that there was no continue watching feature. I think there might have been a continue watching on the website before it came to the apps. So Disney might have been more prepared on that end, because that's the other thing you have to consider too, is that it was great that they rolled this out on TV apps, phone apps, website. I think a few video game consoles might have gotten it. I'm not certain on that, but like the fact that they rolled it out pretty much day one on all of these services is great. So if a byproduct of that is that a few features aren't integrated into every aspect of it yet, I think that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at least grateful that they are rolling these out relatively soon after the release rather than just like leaving them go, because, you know, they could just leave it be. But no, they actually are integrating these things. And I think you're right about the app, because I know on my phone there wasn't anything like that for a while either. So, but yeah, honestly, as long as they keep improving like they have been, I think the future's looking good. So
yeah, the continue watching thing was the biggest complaint that I had. I mean, correcting some episode orders would be great.
Yeah. The only thing that I've noticed I've been really like wanting from the service is some type of sort chronologically thing. Like if I'm like going through the Pixar section and I want to watch the movies in the order they came out, I need to know what the order is and click on the movie that corresponds. They don't just have like a playlist or some option.
Don't they have a Pixar Throughout the Ages?
They do, but not every single thing is there. Like not every single movie is on that. So yeah, if there was a feature to sort it chronologically, I'd really appreciate that.
I mean, that'd be nice, because like if you search for Recess, what comes up is the show, the theatrical movie School's Out, All Growed Down, which I'll tell you what it is, but it's weird. And then there's one more thing that comes up, I think. Oh no, that might be it. I don't know, but you don't know like what. Oh, taking the 5th grade, right? The correct order to watch it is the show, All Growed Down, the summer, the movie that takes place over summer vacation, and then taking the 5th grade, which is them into the next year. But that's not entirely obvious as a grade. All Growed Down, by the way, is a repackaging of existing episodes with wraparound segments, and then a new like 11-minute section in there. Very strange. They weird repackaging of Recess content, especially weird because the wraparound segments are in that in the digital inking style, and then the flashbacks are not. So
That's
also
weird.
also weird is that Recess has had they use child actors, so like TJ has been replaced a few times. So it's like, which is fine, you have to do that, but you maybe don't want to have an episode that consists of other episodes where you can kind of hear like a noticeable difference in voice, like 1 second to the next.
I mean, he hit puberty, clearly.
Sure. Yeah, a few times.
Moving into the 5th grade. Yeah.
Okay. We have other corrections and updates and observations?
Yeah, from YouTube, we have Bly the Penny Cycle 21, who mentioned Francisco Angones, who I assume is a pretty big person in terms of the DuckTales reboot, said on Twitter that that he and the co-creator Matt Youngberg were hoping to get Alan Young to voice Scrooge's father. If you don't know, Alan Young was the voice of the original Scrooge McDuck from the original DuckTales. But he died in 2016, which was before it could happen. So instead, they got Graham McTavish.
That's soul crushing.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Monsters, and thank you guys for correcting us.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving into the rotating segment, I teased up at the top. We have something to talk to you guys about, and I don't know how to do this.
This is tough.
Yeah. When we began the recast over a year ago, I think we kind of set, what did we say? We said like a year, right? That's what we thought we'd
Something like that.
We'd try to get to. That would be kind of like the goal. And we hit that, and when we hit the year, we kind of talked about what we wanted to do with the show, and we made some changes that definitely helped workflow. It was a little easy,
streamlined.
Yeah, not having to come up with, pull some questions, pull some news, trivia, like all this stuff. It made it easier to produce the show, made the time come down a little bit, which made it easier to edit. But recently, unfortunately, due to kind of a number of circumstances, we've come to the conclusion that we cannot keep going with the podcast. We'll talk about why in a second, but I just kind of want to say the most important thing to us was that we wanted to give you guys a good ending. We wanted to have a few episodes that kind of hit on some things that are all about the recast, and then go out with a big bang. And the show's not this is not the last episode, just to make that clear really quickly. That's kind of what we did. We have between 3 and 5 more ideas that we want to get out there, and I don't want to give you a concrete date yet or a concrete amount more shows, because we're still working that out. But there's only going to be less than 5 more episodes. We might make it into 2020, but only just.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that the most important thing, and what we're really trying hard behind the scenes to do, is to give you guys a good, solid, go out with a bang ending. To not just continuously push ourselves until the show just dies. Last week we took a week off, and that wasn't something we planned. It was just scheduling was tough, and I was burnt out from editing, and the holiday was coming, and it was a lot of things that came at once, and we didn't have an idea planned, we didn't have a guest lined, like it all just
didn't work out.
No. So we very much enjoy doing the podcast. This isn't like a creative differences thing. This is it's just kind of become not a thing we're able to do for very much longer.
Yeah, I can say for myself, when we started the cast, it was during the summer, and I had a wealth of free time, and continuing on into the rest of 2018 and even some of this year, I had a lot more time. But as you guys could have probably seen from Pieguy starting to edit the podcast and other factors, my free time has really decreased, and I can't say I've been a very great co-host in the past few months because I've had to rely on Pi to do a lot of what I was doing before. And I want this podcast has been a really great experience, and I don't want the quality to suffer. And I also, I think that we've reached a point where we've covered our original goal, like Pi was saying earlier.
It's both of us. Basically our schedules, mine and Monsters, are starting to diverge in the little free time that we do have in terms of when we're available. And then even that, it's like, I'm going to start entering the more busy season of my job. I know you're entering a pretty busy part of education.
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on, and it just, we've exhausted like basically all the main people we wanted to get on the podcast guest wise. There's definitely other people that we would have wanted to get or whatever, but
like Jace Norman.
Yes, but I think we had like a really great diverse amount of people and opinions. We've talked a lot about our feelings about reboots, what works in our opinion, what we don't like, when something is a cool sequel, when is something just a rehash. We've talked about streaming services. We've talked about Disney live action. I think we've hit the gambit on a lot of different subjects. And yeah, I mean, we kind of accomplished our mission statement. Our mission statement was basically to look at all of these examples of, quote, remakes or reimaginings or sequels or reboots, rehash, whatever the name of our podcast is.
Reboot, revival, rehash.
There we go.
Yeah.
We've looked at like as many different forms of this as we can, and I think I'd rather go out on a bang than just kind of keep pushing ourselves and going until the podcast just dies one day.
Yeah, and in the grand scheme of things, it's been, a year and a half, but think about also how much has changed from the moment we started and where we are now.
Yeah, it's...
just in terms of the entertainment landscape.
Yeah, we were here for a very important time. Okay, so those are the points. The podcast is ending in the next few weeks. We will give you a heads up as to when we know which episode is going to be the last episode. We're not just going to surprise, this is the last one. No. We'll give you at least a week or two's notice.
And when we say we're going out with a bang, we're going out with a bang.
Yeah. Okay. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing next on YouTube or not on YouTube creatively. I just want to throw that out there. I don't know. I'm definitely still doing the Pokemon challenges with Shadow for the time being. The podcast didn't take up like tons and tons of time, but the editing, fortunately and unfortunately, because Monsters did such a good job on the editing, we kind of created this standard that made it so that we had to spend hours and hours and hours editing out so many little and little superfluous things we said and just trying to make it as seamless as possible, which is good. I mean, I think that makes for as good a podcast as we can have, but it also kind of defeats a little bit of the podcast purpose in the sense that we're still spending hours and hours and hours and hours on it,
Right.
And then yeah, I mean, there's certain stresses with having to try to find guests and trying to figure out ideas and trying to make sure we find the time each week. It's just I'm very proud that we were able to do it for over a year, almost every week.
Right. And I think too, there's I don't want to say an illusion, but almost, I'm sure a lot of you are super appreciative of the podcast, but to a lot of surface level viewers or people that are maybe just checking out the podcast, there's a lot more that goes into it than what might appear to.
Absolutely.
Several hours of editing, several hours of planning, but we enjoyed doing it, and that's why we did it for so long.
Yeah, I also don't want to be like, be a hypocrite, because I am always on about like things should have endings and things should end when they're on top and not wait around to milk every idea they have until they're dead in the water and then they end. So let's end the podcast while we're on top, while we're doing good, while we have a following and we've done some great ideas, and we have some great ideas coming up.
I call the DVD shelf.
And and certainly, the friendship that Monsters and I have formed making this podcast, that's not going away.
No.
And certainly, other projects in the future, more like one-offs. But, I think we work together collaborative-wise, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of those popped up in the future.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, sorry to have to break that to everyone. There's never a right or a good way to do it, but yeah. Shadow, how do you feel about this?
Well, I think you guys, it was very well said. Good job. I give you a 10 out of 10 on that. No, I mean, I can honestly say that this was a lot of fun every time you guys had me on, and even when I listen to a few of the other episodes, it's always been fun, but I completely understand, everyone has things going on in their lives, and sometimes, they don't click. That's, I could never commit to doing it every single week. I love coming on as much as I can, but I know it's just not possible. So the fact that you guys made it work for so long is really impressive, and you've got my respect for that, because that's something I couldn't do. But yeah, it was a great time. I really always loved when you guys would have me on, or when it was me and Kuro, or with all the creative things we got to do. So I had a blast. So
awesome. And this is not your last time on the podcast.
No, it's not my last yet.
All right. Well, with all that out of the way, we got some episodes to compare.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
So yeah, now you know why we're covering Nano of the North and Largo, because I approached Shout and I'm like, listen, before we go out, we got to do another Powerpuff Girls comparison. What do you got anything in mind? And what did you?
I said, well, we've only been teasing it for about a year, and then
it's
I
only
suggested
been in 6 trivias,
right? So I was like, we got to do it.
Yep.
So I was like, Largo and Nano of the North. So that's what we're doing.
It's a biggin.
So, all right, to start with, Nano of the North is from season 4 of the original Powerpuff Girls. It's from the season in which almost every episode was 22 minutes, and this one is no different. Basically, there's a rain cloud that's raining on Townsville. These tiny little nanobots that are eating away at everything, and the Powerpuff Girls have to shrink down and fight them.
Yeah.
That's it. For 22 minutes, there is remarkably little story here.
Yeah, they spent the narrator has the entire first 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Which would be like half of an ordinary episode.
See, this is an interesting one because, I mean, I've talked about this with Shadow before, but the seasons 5 and 6 of the show have this weird pace to them where they're very slow. A lot of the jokes are very long, drawn out jokes. And I feel like this episode in a lot of ways is a lot like seasons 5 and 6, but it also still has some of that charm from the earlier show. So it is kind of truly fitting of its spot right in the middle.
Yeah, I talked about this in my recent video. Go watch it. I classify season 4 episodes into 2 categories. Either these are some of the best episodes of the whole show, they're absolutely incredible, or you're just okay. And this is definitely a just okay episode.
Yeah.
It's it's right in the middle of season 4. It's the second episode, at least in terms of airing order, I think maybe production order too, that's made digitally. Right. This is the second episode that was animated digitally. So you can kind of see that. And like Pi said, there's some mixes of the slow pacing that the later seasons had, and there's still some of the action and charm and smarmy comments that work their way in there. So it's kind of like a transition episode between the good episodes and the not so good episodes.
So the narrator's opening, I feel, was just a really blatant display of padding because I mean, obviously this is narrator opening in basically every episode of the show, but in this one he goes on and on about the citizens are having a good day, and is Johnny Pickpocket gonna have a good day? And meanwhile, Johnny Pickpocket's been rummaging around in this dude's pocket for 45 seconds of narration. A lot of it's so unrelated. I get that they're setting up that it's a nice day and then a cloud comes in, but it doesn't feel distinct enough from like any of the other openings, but yet this one goes on and on and on.
Yeah, and it kind of misses the thing that a lot of the other episodes do, where it's like they set up that it's a nice day. It's like the city of Townsville. It's a wonderful day. Oh my gosh, it's under attack. Like it just like snaps
Right,
to it, and there's
right.
no snap here. It's just a built up, drawn out kind of like this. And like as we said, this could be an 11-minute episode.
Oh
it really
God,
could.
absolutely.
Easily.
Like there's so much that could just be cut out or sped up.
So that's the thing, and I'm a little torn on it because a lot of why this episode is 22 minutes and why it's so slowly paced in the story department is because it's kind of atmospheric. Like there's a lot of really interesting things going on, like when the girls are shrunk down, we get a very long sequence of them just kind of going across the professor's like leg, like the width of his body, very slowly. There's sequences of like booting up machinery and lab equipment and like the professor gearing up and like all this stuff. There's like a lot of stuff like that, and it's like on the one hand I'm like, this is kind of cool, like the animation is nice, and it definitely kind of gives you this sense of like, oh, this is a serious threat and this is like what's gonna happen, how are they gonna deal with this. But then on the other hand, it's like they pull that slow atmospheric thing so many times in the episode that at a certain point it's like, just get to the point.
It almost kind of
Yeah.
reminded me of those, or at least some episodes of Foster's, because a lot of those
Oh,
were
yeah.
22 minutes, and there's just some gags that go on for a really, really long time. The one that comes to mind for me in this episode is where they're just sitting watching an unnamed pony cartoon for quite a while, and it's just the pony moving.
Walking.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but like what they're watching is kind of a metaphor for how slow the episode is. Like,
Yeah.
like Buttercup is frustrated at one point about how like the big moment is when the pony turns around.
Yeah.
Like I want to say that's clever, but I don't know that it was intentional.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional. It might just be a funny. It's kind of just a funny hyperbole of the actual episode, because I'll
Yeah.
give the episode credit. There is a bigger reveal than a pony turning. So,
Is
but-
there?
well, it's not like it's the biggest thing ever, but it's like all the nanobots making one giant nanobot. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. This whole episode builds up to nothing. There's no villain behind this.
There's also
It's
a logic
just-
gap, because the nanobots are destroying anything that's carbon, but humans are notoriously carbon life forms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's they explicitly say carbon, and then the nanobots only seem to want to eat clothing, and only sometimes.
Yeah, clothing and buildings.
Yeah, they just disregard
Right.
it towards the end. Like when the professor's like has his big lens thing. Yeah, everyone still has their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's also really weird because it's like these things are like scouring the whole city, but
Yep.
as soon as the girls fight in one tiny spot, it's like all these other nanobots across the entire city are just like vanish.
apparently the girls fought off like billions of these things.
Yeah,
I mean,
Mark? If we
I
assume there's
guess.
one in each raindrop, there was a lot of raindrops. And are we so sure they didn't like spread anywhere else?
Yeah,
I don't.
like-
I like. You know, is there really no way for the professor to build something to like knock out all the like an EMP grenade or something? Like this is it. The resolution is the girls shrink down and literally beat the tar out of a ton of raindrops worth of nanobots, and then yeah, there's no one controlling them. There's no like head nanobot. It's just are they aliens?
Yeah, I don't know. Cause like there's other aliens in the show, but we don't
Yeah.
see these ones come from space or anything. This
No.
cloud just appears, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess. I don't know. It's not the best villain fight
No.
episode, not by a long shot.
I mean, it's almost like Roach Coach if Roach Coach wasn't anything, right? Like what's cool about Insecticide is like there's a twist villain basically, and even before it's a twist villain, it's still just kind of like a villain. In this, it's just nameless, faceless micro robots.
yeah, there's clearly a motive. There's an explanation for like why this is happening. Here it just shows up, and I mean you can make the argument, well, the nanobots want to feed, but like the whole fact that
Like-
they're bots raises the question of who made them.
Right. If they were alien creatures, that kind of like alleviates it. Like, okay, they got to eat, but it's like
Yeah.
they're robots. Robots don't have to eat,
Yeah.
right?
Like it feels like were made by someone that like designed them to destroy the town. It's not like they're trying to survive.
Yeah, it's not like they're a virus.
Yeah.
And after like all the slow moving parts to this and the long drawn out battle sequence, I feel like it would have really elevated the episode to have some sort of twist at the end or some sort of like reveal. I don't know what villain would even make sense for this to be, but like
Amoeba
something.
boys, maybe? I don't.
Oh well, I mean they are kind of like amoeba sized.
I don't know.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I could see a connection being made there if
Right.
there was one.
Wasn't there
So-
another episode where they divide themselves into?
Yeah. Divide and Conquer. Though that's season 5, and
Right.
it's also math based, where the girls learn math.
Wow.
Oh, fun. Watching the girls fight these things wasn't very satisfying
No.
because there's nothing to it. They just like literally at one point they punch the raindrops with the nanobots in them just out of existence. Like
Yep.
the animation on that is so weird because it's not like it's not like Buttercup is like punting them off into the distance. It's just literally she's disintegrating them with her fist.
Yeah.
I'm making it sound cooler than it is. No, they pop out of frame. They pop out of frame. That's what it is. They're animated and then they don't exist anymore.
If I'm remembering it correctly, too, there was a part that seemed like complete filler to me, and that's where the girls figure out what happened, and then they just rush out of the house to go solve the problem, and the professor's like, wait, you guys don't understand. And then they just spend like a minute meandering or whatever, trying to beat them, and then they just go back to the house, and then they investigate. It just felt completely unnecessary.
I would get it if they actually structured it by removing the whole narration at the beginning and just having the girls notice like, oh, something's going on, let's go, just immediately again snap.
Yeah.
But there's nothing, there's no jump or anything. It's just waiting around, figuring it out, then they go for it.
Hey Monsters, did you see Gendy's work in here?
I didn't.
Gendy worked on this episode.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like them fighting off hordes and hordes of robots kind of remind me of when Samurai Jack would fight off hordes and hordes of robots. But
Yeah.
I will say, usually in a Samurai Jack sequence is a little more variation on how he fights these things. I mean, the girls use different moves, but like they're nanobots. They're not hard to kill. It's just literally, I kind of thought that at one point they'd be exhausted, right? Like, oh, we can't fight them all. That's how this story usually goes. But no, literally they just beat all of these things, and then at one point the bots just make it easy by forming something big enough for the professor to step on, which I like the bit of logic there. But
As do I. I think that's a clever way to end that particular part.
yeah, it's not a strong ending to the episode though.
Right, and referencing your Samurai Jack analogy, Samurai Jack is also 22 minutes, but and it's also, I guess, compared to this episode, a slow burner. But that's like, in Samurai Jack, it serves a purpose, and it helps build the atmosphere, and Samurai Jack uses a lot of visual storytelling, whereas in this episode, it's a lot of padding to make up for a really simple and narrative that could have been accomplished way quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I would say some of the atmosphere is effective. I think there is some shots, like, towards the beginning where it's really creepy that these... Because we don't know that they're nanobots at first. You just see rain basically dissolving the town, and that's kind of freaky. Like... I mean, the episode almost would have been better if it was acid rain. You almost get the feeling like the story is going to be like the girls trying to figure out how to fight rain. Because that's when they go out, like that's what they do. They try to fight rain, which is
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, like, you can clearly see there is potential here for something really creative and cool. Like, just like you said, the concept of fighting rain. How does one do that?
Right.
There was definitely potential, especially from a show like this, for them to put a very, very, very creative spin and on that idea, but it just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I think as a result, it suffers quite a bit.
Would you guys say that this episode maybe exists to test out that new style of animation?
Maybe.
Maybe a little bit. I know that All Chalked Up came before it,
Right.
and I feel like that episode might have done it a little bit more, only because in that episode there's like these 2D chalk monsters, and they
Right.
really kind of try something new with the digital landscape.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I can't think of too many things that make the digital like that much more. What's the word I'm looking
Well,
for?
I mean, I guess I'm saying maybe they spent more time developing the actual
Mhm.
the animation and art on the episode, and not enough time developing the actual story. I mean, I definitely am saying that.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the change in style is why maybe the ball got dropped. But I don't know. The production of season 4 always confuses me. I would love to know more about why there's all these 22-minute episodes.
Oh yeah.
Why it aired like it aired over the course of like a year and a half or something. Like it was a long stretch for not that many episodes. I don't know. There's something weird in there, and I wonder if it has to do with the transition art styles or.
Well, I mean, don't take my word as like certain, but
You heard it
I
here.
think I think part of it had to do with the fact because it's like the first 3/4 of season 4 aired regularly, and then there was a huge gap. I think that might have had to do with the movie. Because the movie was also in production
Right.
around the same time as season 4, so I
That
think
makes
that's why
sense.
there's like big gap between Knock It Off and then like Super Friends, and then there's like Super Friends was almost the only episode to air in 2002, and then they threw in 2 other episodes at the very end of December.
What season did Craig McCracken leave in?
He left after season 4, but there are a few season 5 episodes that were already being made. Like I know for example, he did have some say on See Me, Feel Me, Know Me, which is like the big one.
Which is
Right.
probably why that episode doesn't suck.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Hey, I don't mind dissing Chris Savino.
I don't either. I used to defend him, but
Nope.
that ship's
Nope.
long gone.
Yep.
I guess the only other thing I really have to say about Nano of the North is obviously I was born in 96, so I don't remember
Obviously.
a lot of the first couple seasons premiering because I was too young to really remember that. Nano of the North, unless I'm mistaken, is the first episode I can recall seeing when it premiered.
Wow.
Oh.
I might not have seen any other of season 4 premiere, but like I definitely remember seeing Nano of the North premiere, and that's the first episode I can remember seeing. So that's the one really special thing I guess I have to say about it. But other than that, it's just
Do you guys know what the title's referencing?
Yeah.
it's not Norm of the North,
It's,
so don't say that.
It's Nanook
No.
of the North, right?
Correct. Which is also what Norm of the North is. Yeah. If you've seen season 2 of Legend of Korra, they parody this, but Nanook of the North was attributed as one of the first documentary films about some guy who went to the Arctic and just filmed some natives.
Apparently, it's partially staged too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, documentary now did a parody of that documentary.
Point being, it has absolutely nothing to do with the episode. I don't know why. I have no idea. There's nothing even like Nano.
Nano
Sure,
means
Which-
small.
it's
Nanobots.
right,
I don't know.
but like of the north. But why of the north? Because it comes from the sky. The sky is not north. Is
up.
it? Am I wrong? Like
No,
that's a
it's
different
not
thing.
North.
Like different axis. Also, I keep thinking of my cat when we're talking about this episode. And to be completely honest with you, this episode is not why I named my cat what I named my cat, but it definitely put the word Nano into my head. So thank you, episode, I guess. Helping me name my cat. I don't know. I mean, really, like we've talked kind of down on it, but like at the end of the day, I do kind of feel it's more of like an than like an I hate this, because
Yeah.
I was amused by some of the animation. I do feel like some of the atmosphere works, and at the end of the day, it is still the Powerpuff Girls, the old Powerpuff Girls anyway, and there is still a little bit of that charm in there. The professor is cool in the episode. Like, I could say that. He is very proactive in helping the girls through the whole thing, which is nice.
When he was the crossing guard, I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, because he doesn't want his daughters to get stepped on, so he like directs everyone away from their little microscopic fight. So that was cute. I liked the joke about the jar. He's like, I'll have to develop some transport system for you, and then he just pans over to a jar with holes poked in the lid.
I also liked the joke with the hobo, where the hobo was holding up a sign that said "Dark days are coming" or something like that, and then the storm cloud comes, and then he just has another sign that says "Told you so."
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Not a complete wash of an episode, but I get, if seasons 5 and 6 didn't exist, I would probably say this is one of the worst episodes of the show. I think it is probably one of the worst.
Yeah,
of the first
it's
4.
down there.
It's weak.
It's down there.
It's not like there are some episodes that make you really, really dislike them, that are like aggressively like, I hate this. Like, what was the one from season 5 or 6 with the mayor and the pickle and the giant mayor? I hate that one.
Well, the pickle one is a different episode. You're thinking of Toast to the Town.
Sorry, yeah, Toast to the Town. Yeah, like, that's aggressively
obnoxious.
stupid and obnoxious. So yeah, this is not aggressively obnoxious. It's more just slow, meandering, and just doesn't get to a good point. Honestly, it has good ideas, but it is just wasted potential, in my opinion. Oh man,
Yeah, I agree.
You know what this means, guys? This sets it up as this could be the first time that we pick a reboot episode over the original. So Largo.
I'm going to talk about Largo in this tone.
So Buttercup and Blossom are arguing because Buttercup is messy and Blossom put Buttercup's toy in a place where Buttercup opening a door would break it. And
What
so
else is new?
They're arguing over a broken toy, and they're putting bubbles in the middle. Meanwhile, there's a rain cloud that's causing depression.
Relatable.
It's so dumb.
Everyone in Townsville has seasonal affective disorder.
Depression is not to be made light of, monsters. No. So it turns out that the depression rain is coming from a bear who turns out to be half of the original creature that Allegro was, and a mystical storm split the bear into Allegro and Depression Bear, Largo, and Bubble. Also, the mayor's gonna blow up the town because he's depressed.
Yep.
And Bubbles does a fake tea party to reunite her sisters and Allegro and Largo.
You hit about everything on my checklist. Good job. There's
a
a lot going on here.
It's a music pun.
This is a good counterpoint to Nano of the North, because Nano of the North is a lot of like not talking and not story developments and just kind of slow building, whereas Largo is like, there's a conflict with the girls, there's a conflict with there's like a mysterious thing going on, and then there's a conflict with the two bears, and then the mayor's gonna blow up the town, and it's just like, it's not like the story is complicated, but it's just there's like a lot of things that they kind of cram into a not very long time. So I feel like in that sense it is kind of like the opposite of Nano of the North.
Mm-hmm. I will say, right off the bat, that if there's one thing I can appreciate this episode for doing, it's explaining Allegro a little bit more.
I would have never guessed this was going to be the origin story for Allegro.
I never would have guessed any of this either. Now, whether or not I think that's good is an entirely different thing, but I can at least say I appreciate that I finally understand 2 seasons later, by the way, why Painbow happened and why Somewhere Over the Swing Set happened the way that they did.
Well,
because it's like, okay, so this is why Allegro has his power. This is why he is the way he is. Finally, I get it. And I appreciate that.
Because it's not even like they tease that there's something like an origin in Painbow. It's literally just, here's a crazy rave twerking panda, makes everyone crazy.
Is this Allegro's last appearance?
I hope so.
Unless I know I haven't seen the very end of season 3, so I think I don't remember if he appears in Total Eclipse of the Card or not.
Because if he does, that means that the Cosmic Bear defused again.
Yeah, that's true. If he's...
Was it just me that thought of that? How they fused?
No,
it's basically just a fusion.
There are a lot of continuity episodes or continuity errors between these episodes. Don't even get me started. But
well, I think
he might be.
The thing that stuck out.
Double check.
The thing that stuck out to me the most about this episode is how cringy it is, which is very fitting for an Allegro episode. Who says crack-a-lackin' in 2019?
What's up, girlfriend?
Oh my god. And then Buttercup has a whole montage of entering with terrible catchphrases. Who is it supposed to be like cringe comedy? Because I feel like they lost the comedy part and it's just
no.
Is it unironic? Like is it trying to be like
Don't give him that credit.
What is it though? Is it just genuinely like, haha, it's funny to use old terms?
It is, we don't understand kids. That is what it is. We don't understand. We're doing what we think the kids are like. That's what it is.
And I know that I was on about Nano of the North for not having a lot of explanation, but like, I mean, this has explanation as to why it's happening, but like, they don't really explain where the depression's coming from and why it's not applying to the girls.
Yeah, why does literally everyone but Bubbles gets depressed because of the rain? She's right there.
That is the exact issue that Painbow has too. The same issue. People criticize Painbow for saying there is clearly a giant flaw here with the girls being immune, and it's not addressed in this one. And they could have addressed it. And it shows me because it tells me that they could have because they addressed Allegra's origin. But okay. So here's another problem I have with it though. So like they explain where Allegro came from, but then why in Painbow and somewhere over the swing set is the panda thing just an outer shell of this inner blue teddy bear that's electrified and spazzes out when the panda shell disappears? And like, why is that not present here? Where did that come from? What does that have to do with anything?
Because they retconned it.
Wait,
I guess
the episode is called Somewhere Over the Swing Set. Wouldn't it have made more sense to call it Somewhere Over the Painbow?
You would think, right? But no, Painbow was a season 1 episode at the beginning, and Somewhere Over the Swing Set was a season 1 episode at the end.
Painbow is probably the most well-known Powerpuff Girls 2016 episode for the Raw.
Or Donnie.
Or
yeah,
the Donnie episodes. Or the Jared episode.
Oh, don't worry.
Or Bliss.
Allegro does twerk again in this episode. Don't worry. I was a little afraid that they might have kept their cringiness to crack-a-lackin' and what's up, girlfriend. But no. They make sure to make him twerk multiple times in the episode.
It wouldn't be an Allegro episode without it. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Is this just a blatant, just screw you audience episode?
Yes, it is. It's a we don't care.
Like, did they not see the feedback, or did they just think it's one thing to...
I believe that they saw the feedback because they gave him an origin.
But it doesn't solve... I mean, it explains
No, it
but it
doesn't.
doesn't make him better.
I can just imagine
No, it
the
doesn't.
writers of the episode, putting notes on the animatic and storyboards and just, writing to the overseas animators, make sure that this panda twerks.
It holds its butt when it twerks too. It's somehow worse. I don't get it. Am I out of touch? Or are the writers of the show out of touch?
It's the writers.
Okay. No, it's the writers that are wrong.
Yeah. I will say there is only one thing in this entire episode that made me even crack a smile. And that was when the mayor was happy and then he blew up the town anyways. I was like, that is something the mayor would do.
It's an obvious
But other
joke,
than that,
but
it is obvious, but
yeah.
It is what the mayor would do. There's nothing else. Nothing else made me laugh or smile or... No, I was just deadpan the whole time. I was like, this is not...
I think the biggest upside to me, and this is really telling, when I saw that it was the rain making people depressed, I'm like, oh no, is this gonna be the Powerpuff Girls 2016's take on depression? Are we gonna get some sort of really hackneyed stance on depression from this really out of touch cartoon that's already botched up other metaphors?
You know what's funny, Pi?
Yes.
They did an episode on depression.
Oh my god.
The Trouble with Bubbles. Or no, Bubbles the Blue. Sorry, The Trouble with Bubbles is a different episode, though you could honestly apply it to both in terms of the title. Bubbles the Blue is an episode where Bubbles has depression. And that's the whole episode.
That's awful. Why? Oh.
Now, believe it or not, it's not a remarkable episode by any stretch of the imagination, but out of like all the sensitive subjects that the reboot has tried to talk about, this is the one they got the most right.
Okay.
So I can say it's not offensive, it's not bad. It's very basic and straightforward. It's very surface level, but it isn't bad.
I mean, it is kind of surprising considering how the show is and what it's tried to do, that they do have this episode where people are depressed from rain and they don't even try to like do anything with it. But like I said, that was the best thing about this is that they don't. That it's not as bad as it could have been. Oh god, it bothered me so much too that like, so the town is on the brink of being blown up by the mayor, and Bubbles is so much more concerned with making her sisters and these bears make up than that. Like, it's such an antithesis to what the original show was, because in the original show, if Bubbles had heard that, she would rush to the mayor and, like, take away the explosive device and, like, I don't know, probably slap him to try to snap him out of it. Like that's the original show for you. In this show, it's like, okay, the town could be blown up at any second. Let's go have a slow tea party. Not just to make these bears make up, because that will make the depression go away, but also to help my sisters out, which, like, them fighting and the depression reign have nothing to do with each other.
Nope.
It's not like
there's a lot of conflict, but I don't care about whatever Blossom and Buttercup are fighting about at all.
God, it was so dumb. It was like, oh, they're fighting over a toy. Like, oh.
Welcome to the reboot. Yeah, this is nothing new. It's nothing new in that department. I would say that the episode tries to have tension with the explosive, but like you said, it could blow up at any moment, but nothing happens and they go have a tea party instead. What I think would have fixed this issue is if, like you said, Pi, Bubbles went and like grabbed the device from the mayor or something. But I think it shouldn't be a wired thing. I think it should be a remote. Bubbles takes the remote, goes back to her house. But all the depressed people are like, maybe this is a little too dark, but we want to end it. So they chase after Bubbles. They want to blow up the town. And they're chasing after Bubbles. And Bubbles only has a certain amount of time before she's overrun by all these people grabbing for the remote. Like, not necessarily zombies, but maybe a little bit like that. Something.
It's a metaphor for mob mentality.
I mean, you could make it ludicrous.
Yeah.
You could make it ludicrous that like the mayor is depressed and mopey, so he's laying on the plunger, and the plunger is slowly sinking down as he apathetically puts weight on it, and so there is like an actual timer. And then the mayor's like, the only way I'll get up is if I'm suddenly happy again. Like, make it ridiculous, right? Make it funny.
Yeah, like bring Miss Bellum back, and then that would make the professor or the mayor really happy.
Yeah, instead we're just left with, oh, we're going to blow it up after we take a nap. And I'm like, okay, well, the problem with that is, like, we don't know how long this nap is going to be. So
just go disconnect the explosives. Like,
yeah. There's no pressure now.
Here's another thing. Like, why does okay, so there's this cosmic bear, and this cosmic storm comes, not explained, but whatever, and separates it into two, the Allegro and Largo. How do we get from there to Largo is in a cloud that's causing depression rain on Earth? How does that transition? And then why, when Bubbles does the tea party, the bear seems to be on the ground, not affecting any depression rain anywhere? Like is the bear doing it on purpose? For vengeance? Is it a side effect of his condition? And if so, why did it stop when Bubbles got him out of the cloud? Like,
it's funny, Pi, because these are the exact same issues the Painbow had. It's almost like this episode is almost exactly like Painbow with slight differences.
I'm glad we didn't do Painbow and Largo.
I'm serious. It's almost the same episode. It's just instead of them being party obsessed, they're depression obsessed. And then there's some minor there's a similar conflict. I mean, it's not with Buttercup and her sisters in Painbow, but it's, with Buttercup in school. And that conflict's going on, and then the citizens have their own conflict, and then Allegro has his conflict with the girl, and they have the same exact problems. It's almost like they didn't learn.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could really tell where the focus of the show is, because Bubbles is like, this seems like the kind of caper that I can use to she's like, this is the Powerpuff adventure that I can use to bring my sisters back together. And it's like, so that's it then.
The original Bubbles wouldn't say it like
the
that.
two of your sisters getting along is more important than saving the town. Like that's it then, huh? It's really, that's the order of importance here. Especially
really, Miss Keene hasn't taught her about ethics.
Well, especially considering this is literally like the most minute argument that they've had. You could have, like, they broke a toy. Like, there are riffs that you could. Even in the original show, the girls fought a decent amount, and they had different ways of going about fighting monsters, but it's not like they would just, like, not fight monsters because they were arguing. Instead, they would be bad at fighting monsters because they weren't getting along. It's like, tied in nicely. Instead, here, it's just, if Largo didn't show up, how would the episode really be any different? Like, Bubbles would still sit her sisters down for a tea party, and they'd make up. Like, what... You know what I mean? It's so unrelated.
Yeah.
When you do things like two characters are fighting and then there's a villain plot going on, you usually want to tie that in somehow, right? And the way they tie it in is, I guess, that Largo and Allegro are not getting along, but that's so tangential. It just doesn't feel connected. It doesn't feel like it's in the same episode. If you were to think back, like, oh, which episode do Blossom and Buttercup fight over the toy? You would not immediately be like, oh, obviously Largo.
Well, there's multiple episodes where they fight over some type of material item, so I wouldn't know. Like, the Largo and Allegro plot and the Blossom and Buttercup plot are clearly parallel, but that's just it. They're parallel. They never cross. And that's where the flaw
But
lies,
they're not even fighting for the same reason. That's like they both don't get along. They're two characters that don't get along. That's the only parallel.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, a cross would be, oh, well, they're fighting for similar reasons. Oh, or they're fighting over the same thing. Okay, I just said the same thing twice. That's besides the point. They're just two characters fighting, and that's it. Like, there's nothing that relates at all, and it's just mind-numbing.
In case you guys didn't know the naming scheme either, Allegro is a music term that means, like, upbeat and cheerful, and Largo is more like kind of slow and dreary, which makes sense.
Oh, that's neat. I guess it
doesn't make up for it, but
I mean, it makes it a better title than
know.
Nano of the North, I guess.
Yeah.
Except the first episode's not called Allegro.
See, but Nano of the North is at least a play on words. Largo is just the name of the character.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't parallel with the other episode. So, another thing that bothered me here was that this episode tried to do angry Bubbles, which, if you know the original show, and if Bubbles is your favorite character, like she is mine, like one of the coolest aspects was when she would lose her mind and just completely go off at people. It was like a part of her character, and it was always entertaining when it showed up, even though it didn't show up all that much.
Which I think is a good
thing. Right. In this episode, she's not scary. She's not, like, demonic like she can get in the original show. It's literally just, I'm angry. I'm Bubbles, and I'm angry at you guys.
It's
Why
like a
aren't you
temper
getting
tantrum.
along? Yeah, it's not entertaining, and yet the characters are scared of her. Like, really? And also, by the way, if you ever want to get people to make up, just yell at them. That's kind of,
that's the solution.
If someone's depressed, yell at them.
That'll get them to make up, and then everyone's depression will be cured because you yelled at these people. That's what happens in the episode. Just yell at the one person with depression, and then everyone else won't have depression anymore.
Hey, get
I mean,
along.
Good job.
Listen,
What a life lesson, guys.
You
Wow.
can, if you feel like it, you can extrapolate some really horrible meanings from this episode. Like, if you're depressed, make sure you're not around other people because it'll spread. I'm intentionally being obtuse. I'm not saying that's what they were trying to go for, but like, that's a lesson you could pull.
If
from
you
the
notice
episode.
someone is depressed, and you're with your friends, just abandon them.
There you go.
This show is notorious for having meanings like that,
Yeah.
where they're clearly trying to go for one thing without even having the awareness of what they're actually doing. And it leads to dozens of episodes having implications like this. And it's like, revise the episodes. Come on.
Yeah. What's up, girlfriend? Just, hey.
Whenever I think of Allegra, I keep wanting to say Allegra.
Yeah. We got Fargo and Allegra.
There you go.
Oh man. Yeah. So. Oh. Also of note, the depressed mayor sounds exactly like the Ice King. Like it's the exact same voice.
Oh, yeah.
Good job, Tom Kenny. Sarcasm. That wasn't a good job. I love Tom Kenny, but like,
Ah.
I am so sad, especially because the Ice King gets sad a lot. I mean, I don't know what you can do about that. I mean, technically the mayor existed long before the Ice King, but just maybe don't have him sound like an iconic character. It's like anytime, like if a Tom Kenny character does something close to the SpongeBob laugh, you're just immediately taken out of it because you hear SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Largo. So
Comparisons?
yeah, ultimately, I mean, look, these are loosely compared episodes. We wanted to do it because we'd reference these episodes a lot, and they're both episodes about a rain cloud bringing down Townsville. As much like there's no fighting. I mean, I know I have to say this every time with the reboot. I know every time. I know. I feel bad. I don't know how you don't end up saying it like every video you make, Shadow. But like, there's no fighting in Largo. There's no action in Largo. There's nothing interesting happening. Although a lot of the sequences are on the slower side in Nano of the North, at least there are still interesting things happening, and at least there is still something about the animation that's interesting in its own right, versus Largo, which is so boilerplate animation wise. I mean, that's the thing about the 2016 show. It's like comparing it to other things that are contemporary, like Steven Universe or Infinity Train. It's like Powerpuff Girls 2016 looks bad, and if you compare it to the original show, it also looks bad. It doesn't. It looks so unambitious compared to the original show, and
Even the digitally inked episodes from the original.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want. This is not the best looking original Powerpuff Girls episode, Nano of the North, but I think it still is a lot more visually interesting. Yeah.
Both episodes also end with Townsville in rubble.
That's true. And yeah, I mean, as much as I feel like Nano of the North wasted its potential, at least it kind of kept me guessing as to where it's gonna go. Whereas with Largo, it's just kind of like there's only one way that it ends with Buttercup and Blossom, right? They make up. Like that's the only way it ends. There's nothing else that can happen, and it's gonna be Bubbles is the one that reunites them because it's a Bubbles episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, sure, the nanobots aren't explained, but like Largo isn't really that explained. It's just like it's like a cosmic bear a thing in any other episode, Shadow? How about
They feel the need. I feel like they keep pointing out too that it is a cosmic bear, but I think they tried to make that a joke because of like the absurdity of there being a cosmic bear, but it wasn't funny in my opinion.
No.
Every single episode of this reboot makes up a new rule. I have come to that conclusion after reviewing season 2. Every episode makes up a new rule.
Well, even for like an origin episode for Allegro, it still doesn't explain why he came to Townsville.
Shadow, can you also provide some insight onto the citizens that we saw that got depressed, like that one marine biologist? And
Yeah.
I think his name was Barry.
Okay, so the marine biologist was made up for this episode, never referenced in anything that came before.
Why?
Barry,
Because it's a positive.
Because it's LOL
it's
random.
a positive female role model, even though she's a nameless background character.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the reasoning. I'm not hating on it. It's just it's weird to do that with nameless, faceless background characters.
Right.
in terms of Barry is like the non-offensive Jared, in the sense that he is, like Jared, the most recurring background character. Barry appears in a lot of different episodes, and quite frankly, I think he's the best thing to come out of the reboot because he's not terrible.
His mom's a ninja.
And his mom's a ninja that apparently is Korean, because ninjas are Korean.
All right, Shadow.
according to the
All
reboot.
right. We've seen your video.
Listen.
We've seen your video.
But yeah, I would say Barry is the best original character to come out of the reboot, quite frankly. And he's very, like, as you saw in this episode, he's harmless. He didn't do anything offensive like every other character that was made. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Despite being a lot closer to the 90s, Nano of the North also has a lot less outdated terminology. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's only just barely out of the 90s, and yet I don't know what Largo's excuse is.
There isn't one. Yeah, I think I've made it clear which one I think is better. So,
Yeah. All right. So to just say it, yeah, Largo, it's not interesting. It's still full of holes. There's no action. Nothing. The comedy isn't really there. It's like everything that it tries to do, it just means nothing. Nano of the North does waste a lot of potential and a little bit of time, certainly. Not one of the upper tier episodes, but it still does have action. It still does have some good jokes in there. It does still kind of lead you into wondering where the story is going, even if it ultimately is nowhere. I was still invested in it when I was watching it, whereas I was not in anything close to invested in any of the characters' struggles in Largo. So yeah. I definitely pick Nano of the North.
I agree. In summary, Nano of the North is flawed, but it's better than Allegra and the Depressed Rain Cloud.
Well, it's funny because in all those Allegra commercials, it's like, do you see the world like this? And it's like, you know. All right. Well, we don't have any viewer comments because we didn't tell you we were doing this week. So that takes us into trivia. Monsters.
oh boy.
I think you did not prepare trivia this week because it's my turn.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to go back to the classic reboot or original. I am going to name a synopsis, and you guys have to tell me whether it's from the reboot or original. Shadow, if you get anything less than perfect, I'll be disappointed in you. Monsters, you're going to go first just because Shadow basically knows all of this.
Bring it on.
All right, but I'll try my best to make this tough. It's going to be 5 prompts. The girls realize that the professor is tired after preparing for his dissertation tomorrow, so when a burglar new to Townsville tries to rob them, the girls try to stop him without waking up the professor.
I'm going to say that's the original.
That is Burglar Alarmed from the original, and one of the few season 5 episodes I genuinely will say is a good episode.
All right, there we go.
Is that the one where the burglars dress up as the girls?
No, that you're thinking of Powerpuff Bluff, and that's season 1. No, Burglar Alarmed is a good episode.
Okay. I'm surprised that the title isn't like a pun on Don't Wake Daddy. Which is do kids know what that is? That's a board game of the old days.
I can tell you I have not heard of it in probably over 10 years, but I do know what you're talking about.
Okay, thank you. All All right, so why don't we put that twist on it then, Shadow? You have to tell me the titles in addition
Okay.
to get the point. So,
Alright.
so yeah, you both get a point on that one.
Cool.
All right, prompt number 2. The professor takes the girls on a camping trip to teach them to relax, but they are interrupted by Fuzzy Lumpkins and his 3 nephews, and not even he can keep the peace.
I believe we covered this one, if I'm not mistaken.
Did we though, monsters?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if this is the one with that crab or not, or Clawdad.
Don't tell
Is that
him.
his name?
Don't tell him, Shadow. Nope. You got it.
my lips are
I think
sealed.
this is the original.
Shadow.
It's Roughing It Up from the original season 6.
Yes, it is an episode we did cover.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would have been a little concerned if you didn't get that one. And then you were right about Clawdad, by the way. That was the name of the reboot episode.
Yeah, and it is also
the stupid
camping.
crab. Yeah. All right, you guys are both 2 for 2. A crash landing sends Townsville over the edge.
That's it.
That's all you get.
A crash landing. I'm gonna say the reboot.
I'm trying to. Okay, that's very vague. So I'm trying to. I don't even know if I can get the title on this one. But I know it's the reboot. It's got to be the reboot. Because, I know. I don't know if I can get the title off of that. That's so minimal. It's like
Keep trying.
three crooks steal the rust bucket levels of how am I supposed to know what episode this is?
All right, if you're giving up.
I think you got me. I know it's the reboot, but
Yes.
I don't know what episode it is. I think you got me with that one. I can't.
All right.
I don't know it.
So it is the reboot, so Monsters get the point.
A.
The name of the episode is The Spoon. I don't
Oh
know.
my god. Okay. Okay, that's right. But that's so okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I see the
I don't
connection now.
Okay. Okay, so Monsters is at 3 and Shadow's only at 2. The professor and Miss Keen go on a date set up by the girls.
I could see this happening in either, but I feel like this is a reboot thing.
Keen on Keen, season 4 original.
Shadow is correct. You're
Aw.
both tied at 3. I left out there's more to that description, but I left it out to make it harder. Okay, so this is the
You
last
did.
prompt for all the marbles.
For all the sugar, spice, and everything nice.
A trip to the supermarket has bizarre consequences.
I'm going to say this is the original, and I think I might know the title. Is this Mommy Dearest?
Shadow?
That's the
Or Mommy Fearest, one of the two.
Mommy First is that episode that you're thinking of, Monsters, but I'm pretty sure this is Checking Out from the reboot.
Shadow is correct!
Ah.
Sorry, Monsters.
I mean, I'm not wrong,
No, they do go to a supermarket. You're not wrong.
and it does have bad consequences.
I mean, I guess.
But you wouldn't describe the episode like that.
The
That would
connection
be-
is stronger with the reboot one than it is with Mommy First. I mean, you could also make the argument Beat Your Greens does it because they go to the supermarket in that one and all the kids destroy the vegetables. Those are consequences.
Mhm, mhm. All right, very good, guys. Sorry, Shadow, about the spoon thing.
It's okay. You had to
shame.
get me. You had to get me on something, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you got all the reboot and originals, and you won anyway. So
Once again, the day is saved.
next week on the recast, we still have to figure that out. So, all right. Well, thank you, Shadow, for being on this episode.
Thank you, Shadow.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. Like I said, I love doing this. So.
I can't believe you made us watch an Allegro episode, but that's all right. It had to happen sooner or later, I suppose. Oh.
At least it wasn't a Jared episode. Am I right?
That's true. It's been a pleasure talking about the Powerpuff Girls on this podcast with you. Of course, if you want to see more Powerpuff Girls reviews, youtube.com/shadowstreak.
YouTube is that. My Twitter handle is @shadowstreak. I have an A in front of like Twitter and I think Patreon.
Just search for Shadow Streak. If
You'll
you see
find it.
If you see a fidget spinner looking thing, then you're there.
Oh my gosh. It's a six-sided ruler, dang it.
But yeah, thank you for bringing your Powerpuff expertise to the podcast. It's you know, you are our most prominent guest, and you know, you filled in when Monsters wasn't there, so thank you for your service. And of course, this is not your last appearance. But yeah, so again, in case you did forget, just we only have a few more episodes left. So if you haven't yet and you want to be a part of the conversation, go over to our Discord server and suggest us some questions, some news, and join the conversation on some of the stuff we've talked about. We will definitely be doing at least one more question roundup on one of the last episodes here. So definitely send us in questions, because I don't know how many great ones are in there. So give us more, please.
More.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, Monsters.
Thank you for being here, Pi.
All right.
Thank you for being here, Shadow.
PIEGUYRULZ out.
Catch you guys next time.
Thank you for being here, Shadow is my outro.